There is a raging battle going on in the mind of every human, whether you are Christian or whether you're not. Those that are Christian, the battle is more intense. But those that are not, the devil, he desires to hold you, to keep you where you are. Right now, the pastor of our church is going through such a battle as this. The Lord has decided to put him through this test so that he can further teach him how to relate to the people around him, to the people that he teaches, and to the people that God has put into his care to feed, to lead them to a greener pasture, that they may grow and they may produce more and greater. The Bible tells us that the tree that does not produce, it is cut down and cast into the fire. Okay. So, and in this process of being cut down, before the Lord does that, he does everything else that he can so this tree might produce. And so when your church has become stagnant, God is looking at you like, okay, what can I do to make this tree grow, to make it produce? Okay, and that's why the Lord sends, because we are individual trees in ourselves. We grow, we reproduce. God takes us to a place that we'll be able to testify and live our lives godly around others, and be effective in witness and ministry for the Lord. And if you go read the parable of the talents, that's why the Lord was saying there that the one that has something that I give to him and does nothing with, he is the evil and unjust servant. Cast him into outer darkness. That's the parable of the tree. Cut down the tree when it don't produce, and get rid of it. Get this ground prepared for a different tree. God will take that away from that person and give it to someone else. Okay. Okay, now I want to give you an example of what goes on during this process. A raging battle. This is not a small battle. I was watching the movie, TV, it's called Tribulation Force. No, that's not it. Road Rage. I'm terrible with names. Anybody ever gets to know me personally, they'll know that, man, I'm just terrible. People's names and stuff like that. Names in particular. If I remember your name, hey, you're special. You know, Revelation Road, that's it. Revelation Road, and there's 1 and 2. And in this movie, especially the second one, I haven't watched the third one yet. There's actually 3 of them. But Revelation Road 2 displays perfectly what it's like for a raging battle to go on in the mind of a person, whether or not to choose to defend himself physically and take and put his own hand upon that which will cause him to guide his own future, or take his hands off and let God. I mean, the giant of a man literally had his hands around this. It was like David and Goliath. And Goliath had his hands around the neck of David. And David, instead of picking up his sling and fighting back, he said, "Forgive him. Forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned," you know. And that's literally the... and I may confuse some of you because of the battles that had to go on back in those days, and with King David and that. Now, what King David did was still a good thing as far as God goes. But seeing today how Christ has come and we no longer have to fight. Jesus said, he says, if this world were my kingdom, my people would fight. Now there's going to come a time for that, when the Lord when the Lord is here, He will take over, you know. But right now we are busily giving our hearts and our minds. We're busily giving over, and you can tell I'm still wrestling with this. This is a battle still going on in my mind and in my heart. But here's a process in which it takes, okay? Luke 22 verse 31 says, "And the Lord said to Peter," He said, "Simon, Simon, behold, Satan had desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not." Now he didn't pray that God would not take him through this, or even not let Satan touch him. He says, "I prayed that your faith fail not." And this is what the Lord is doing. He is causing us, our faith, to grow even in the most intense situations, where we will still look to Him for our salvation, for what He wants out of our life. Even though that thing which we do with our hand may be right and just, we execute judgment on a person to send him into the presence of God for judgment, maybe when he could have had a chance. Maybe when he could have had a chance. Okay? When you pull the trigger and you take a life, you end that person's chance of ever getting into heaven. You end it right there. When you kill a sinner, if you kill an atheist, you're ending his chance right there. His chances are over. His life is done. He has no more chance. Okay? And this is why this is so important to God, that we learn this principle of what we're doing. Because if God puts great power into your hand, you just go out and kill all the atheists. You know, you may prosper in the world for a little while, but you know, it's not the people. We're not fighting in flesh and blood. This is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual battle. Ephesians chapter 6 tells us that we fight against principalities and powers of the air. And this is what Peter was doing. He was fighting this battle. My pastor is fighting this battle. Something happened last night. I wasn't even there. I know this is a fulfillment of my dream that I had 3 weeks ago, where these people were singing, got mad, Brother Bob. My wife told me a man literally came up on the pulpit and pushed Brother Bob, the pastor, out of the way. And he was only there to help. But someone who didn't know who he was came up and pushed him out of the way. And you know, and that put together with all the things that he's been through in the past, how he has tried to help this, and his faith has never failed. This is all about a testing of his faith. And it's all about us, a testing of our faith. And only when you go to help and get pushed out of the way can you understand exactly what God is trying to get across to you. Is that a choice? That we can't put our hands on it and make it better. We can't put our hands on it. We got to put our prayers on it. We got to allow God to do this thing. If we grab a hold of that handle and try to control spiritual things, we have lost the battle. We have lost the battle. Listen to the rest of this. But I pray that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. Converted means a changing of the mind. Talking about, some people say, well, Peter wasn't saved yet. Peter was very, very saved at this point. He was saying when thou art converted, it changes the mind. When you have came through this battle, strengthen your brethren with what you have learned. And he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee. He was on his side, for the proof right here. I'm ready to go with you. His heart was with Jesus. He wasn't strong yet. Jesus was wanting to make him strong. In our battle, this raging battle, Christ is wanting to make us strong. And Jesus said to Peter, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt thrice 3 times deny that thou knowest me. He was saying, Peter, you're just not strong enough yet. You have to go through this battle. You have to go through this battle. Amen. And look at this. Here's another pastor. This is the AP News, Associated Press. Pastor David Blackburn in Indianapolis said in a statement that he's grateful for the overnight arrest of the 18-year-old Larry Taylor on a preliminary murder charge in Amanda Blackburn, his wife, killing, which came about 2 weeks after her death. Though, he says, though it does not undo the pain we are feeling, I was extremely relieved to get news of the arrest made last night of Amanda's killer. David Blackburn said, you can tell he's wrestling with this very same thing. He's wrestling with it, like I'm wrestling, like you're wrestling. This thing is going on in our minds of this battle raging. It's as hot in some of our minds as the fires of hell, and it is just as intense in some cases. Some people said hell is here on earth. Believe me, I know what they're talking about. But there is another literal hell that we as pastors must get into the place where we can show these people. God must take us through this. Just like with Peter, Peter must know what it is like to fight this raging battle. Just like Revelation Road. Did I get the name of that? Just like on this movie. He had to go through that, man. He had to go through that. Because without knowing evil, how can we know what good is? The Bible said when we go through one part, in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, it talks about knowing good and evil. You have become as gods, knowing good and evil. If you only know good, then you don't know what evil is. If you only know evil, then you don't know what good is. But in order to be weighed in the balance and to know things as God knows them, we must know both, and we must experience that. We must experience that which is both, in order to guide people to the side of right. Amen. And that's what's going on in our raging battle. God bless you. Thank you for joining. We'll see you again next time. Great message right here across in the middle ministry.